Chapter 33. The Power of the Udi. I bow down to Sri Ganesh. I bow down to Sri Saraswati. I bow down to the Guru. I bow down to the family deity. I bow down to Sri Sita Ramchandra. I bow down to Sri Sadguru Sai Nath. Now I bow down to the saints and the virtuous. Their merciful glances immediately burn mountains of sins and wash away the impurities of the Kali Yuga. Their heaps of obligations cannot be repaid in this birth, or in many future births. Their casual talks are full of valuable lessons for our welfare and confer imperishable happiness. Their minds do not know any difference such as this is ours and that is yours. Such worldly differentiation never arises in their minds. In the previous chapter, the Guru's greatness was described to some extent. Now, in this chapter, listeners hear of the importance of Udi. Baba repeatedly asked and took dakshina, from which he did charity, helping the poor and the needy. From the balance, he purchased a lot of firewood which he piled in heaps. He offered the dry wood as an oblation in the Adhuni. In front of him, the ashes from the burnt wood, which were considerable, were distributed to the devotees. At the time of departure from Shirdi, while seeking leave from Baba, it was customary to give Udi. All the devotees knew this. In fact, when Baba asked for Udi to be brought, it was felt that it was really the permission granted to leave, and they felt happy to return home. Also, when one was residing at Shirdi, Baba did not give Udi to anyone in the afternoon, morning or evening. One was sent back empty-handed. This was a daily routine. But what was the significance of that Udi for which the Adhuni was kept alight perpetually in the masjid? Why was this done daily? What did Baba hint at, or have in his mind, when giving the Vibhuti? All this visible phenomena in the universe is as transient as the ashes. Bear this definitely in mind. The body itself, like that dry wood, is made up of the 5 elements, and remains to endure life. When the lifespan is over, it falls dead and will be certainly reduced to ashes. You and I will undergo the same stages, so that you should remember this and I should also be aware of it. Day and night, I give the Vibhuti. The entire universe is full of Maya. Brahman is the only reality, while the universe is illusory. Bear this in mind, that this is what the Udi teaches. No person belongs to anyone in this world, be they wife, son, uncles or nephews. Naked you come and naked you will return. The Udi is a reminder of it. If this Udi is applied to the body, then physical and mental sufferings are cured. But the true significance of the Udi is deep, and it is meant for discriminatory detachment. Giving as much as possible as dakshina develops a tendency towards detachment. Later on one is able gradually to know what detachment is. Even if one acquires detachment, if it is not accompanied by discretion, it is useless. Therefore, honor the Vibhuti. To bring together discrimination and detachment, both Udi and dakshina are linked. Unless we have both at the same time, it is very difficult to cross over the river of existence. The young and the old came for darshan and humbled themselves at Baba's feet. Whenever they returned, Baba gave them Vibhuti. The Adhuni was kept alight regularly in the masjid. It burned day in and day out, throughout the year. Baba gave a handful of the ashes from it. When bidding farewell, he gave the ashes as prasad, smeared it with his thumb on the forehead, and together with it placed his hand on the head, wishing for the well-being of the devotees. Ashes, Vibhuti and Udi are three words with the same meaning. This was the prasad distributed daily in unlimited quantity by Baba. This world is like the Udi. This is the real importance of Udi. Bear it in mind and you will realize it one day. Like the drops of water on the petals of the lotus, this evanescent body will fall. Therefore abandon all pride in it. The giving of Udi showed this. This expanse of the whole universe is like a rangoli design drawn with ashes. Think about the illusory nature of the world and the reality abides only in the Udi. Udi is only dust. All existence, which has name and form, ultimately reaches the same state. Whatever changes are observed in the world, they are only for name's sake. This is experienced from the never-changing qualities of dust. When Baba was in a joyful mood, he used to sing. The listeners should hear with respect an interesting snatch from one of his songs. O playful Ram has come, and brought sacks of Udi were the two lines he sang. Whenever he was in a happy and joyous mood, he sang this refrain repeatedly, in a melodious voice. In brief, how many sacks full of Udi has this Dhuni produced? None is capable of counting them. This Udi is supremely beneficial. After listening to the deep purport in giving this Udi, and its spiritual and devotional significance, the listeners want to know its effect on purely worldly matters of health and prosperity. Udi has this quality also. Otherwise, how could its importance increase? Sai is proficient in showing the path of salvation. After helping the devotees in mundane matters, he leads them to spiritual progress. There are innumerable stories about the ways in which the Udi benefited the people for their health and prosperity. But mindful of the length of this book, I shall briefly relate just a few of them. Once there lived in Nashik a Brahmin cook called Narayan Motiram, whose surname was Zani. Similarly, there was another devotee of Baba called Ramchandra Vaman Modak. This Narayan Rao was in his service, and was also a faithful devotee of Baba. When Baba was in body, Narayana Rao went to Shirdi with his mother for Baba's darshan. At that time Baba had suggested to her that the time had come for her son to cease serving others. Now his connection is only with me. Enough of this civility. It is better to have one's own business later on. After a short while, God was merciful to him. His dependence on his job ended and he began to enjoy his freedom. He established a boarding and lodging place of his own. He named it Anandashram, worked hard for it, and soon turned it into a flourishing business which gave him satisfaction. Seeing how things transpired, his faith in Sai increased and later grew into firm devotion which was confirmed by experience. The truth of Sai's words was experienced. The listeners got another story to hear, and their love for Sai increased. Inexplicable are the deeds of Sai. Sai always spoke in the first person, but it was always meant for someone else. For those who observed him carefully, this was a regular experience. Later, as he got more experiences, the grandeur of Narayana Rao's devotion and love increased. Listen to one more novel experience of his with devotion. Enough. One day, a friend of Narayana Rao was stung by a scorpion, all of a sudden, and suffered intense and unbearable pain. Baba's Udi was very efficacious, if applied on the seat of pain. But though Narayana Rao searched for it, he was unable to find any. His friend was unable to bear the agony and the Udi could not be found anywhere. So he took darshan of Baba's picture and prayed fervently to Baba. Then just near that picture, the ash from the josh sticks, which had been burned earlier before it, was lying and he treated it as if it were Udi only. Taking a pinch from it, and chanting Sai's name, he smeared it where his friend was stung. The experience matched the faith. It will be a great marvel to hear that no sooner was the ash applied with the finger that the pain disappeared, as quickly as it had come, and both were choked with love. At least in this case it was the ash from the josh sticks, which was applied to one who was in pain. But, even if dust from the road is applied, treating it as if it were Udi, it grants the same experience. The application of this dust, not only to an ailing person or someone diseased, but to anyone else is beneficial. Once, the daughter of a devotee was suffering from plague. When this news reached her father suddenly, from another village, he was worried. The father lived in Bandra, while the daughter lived in another village. He had no stock of food with him, so he sent a message to Nana. Kindly pray to Baba to remove my anxiety. He requested Chandorkar and asked him to send Udi as prasad. The messenger met Nana on the way, as he was going to Kalyan with his wife. At that time, Nana received this message at Thane, near the railway station. Since he found no Udi with him, he picked up a little dust from the ground. Standing there on the road, invoking Sai Samartha, and turning around applied a pinch to his own wife's forehead. On the other hand, the devotee left for the village where his daughter lived. There he was very happy when he received the joyful tidings. The girl had suffered from very high fever for 3 days. She had been shattered by the suffering, but since a day earlier, she was a little comfortable. Inquiries revealed that the recovery began at the same time that Nana had pleaded before Sai and applied the dust as Udi to his wife's forehead. Enough of this story about the illness. At the opportune time, it will be related in detail. This was an anecdote concerning the Udi. Sai, ever ready to work for the welfare of his devotees, performed a miracle when this very same, loving Chandorkar was the Mamlatdar at Jamner. Listen to it. The greatness of this Udi is beyond limits. If the listeners are willing, I shall narrate another miracle which will astound them. Nana's daughter, who was in labor, was in intense pain, and from Jamner Sai Samartha was being invoked constantly. No one at Shirdi was aware of the state of affairs at Jamner. Baba, however, knows everything and is all-pervading. There is nothing in the universe that he is unaware of. Baba was one with his devotees. Realizing the circumstances at Nana's home, Sai Samartha's heart overflowed with compassion. See what he did immediately. He thought of sending Udi. At the same time, Gosavi Ramagir Bua had an urge to go to his village. His village was in Khandesh. He made all preparations to leave and came to the masjid to take darshan and be at Baba's feet, for no one left Shirdi for any work without touching Baba's feet and obtaining his permission, as long as he was in body. Whether it was a wedding, or a thread ceremony, or some auspicious function as per Shastric rituals, or any other work or the intention to perform some work, Baba's permission was necessary. Everyone was firmly convinced that without his wholehearted permission, prasad of Udi and blessings, no function would proceed smoothly. This being the custom of that village, Ramgir came in accordance with it, touched Baba's feet and asked permission to leave. He said, Baba, I am going to my village in Khandesh. Give me Udi and blessings and your permission to this servant to leave. Baba affectionately called him by the name Bapugir. He replied, Go happily to your village, but rest a while on the way. Go first to Jamner and stay at Nana's home. After inquiring about his well-being, then proceed further. Then he said to Madhavrao Deshpande, Shama, make a copy on a piece of paper of that Arati of Arkaryo and send it to Nana with the Gosavi. Then he gave Udi to the Gosavi and made a small packet of it, and placing it in his hand asked him to give it to Nana. Take both Udi and Arati and give them to Nana. Inquire after his well-being, and then proceed to go to your village. He said, This Arati Sai Baba is like Gyaneshwar's Arati composed by Rama Janardhan. They both have the same tune. Rama Janardhan was a devotee of Swami Janardhan, while Madhavarkar was devoted to Sai's feet. This was an inspired composition, and without it, Sai's worship is incomplete. As Baba liked this Arati very much, listeners should hear this Arati from beginning to end, which Baba sent with Udi. Later, you will realize the fruits of it. Arati refrain. We do Arati to Sai Baba, the giver of happiness to all. Give refuge to the downtrodden and to your devotees who are at your feet. We do Arati to Sai Baba. Burn up the desires. To those who are engrossed in the self, teach them to obtain moksha. Let them see the Lord Sri Rang with their own eyes. Lord Sri Rang, we do Arati. You grant suitable experiences to everyone in accordance with their faith and devotion. O Merciful One, such is your own way. Your own way. We do Arati. Meditation upon your name removes the worldly sufferings of all. Unfathomable is your action. Show the path to the unfortunate ones. Show the unfortunate ones. We do Arati. In this age of Kali Yuga, you are the true Brahma avatar that has taken form and descended on this earth. You are also Swami Datta Digambar. Datta Digambar. We do Arati. Once a week, on Thursdays, the devotees take a trip to have a glimpse of the Lord's feet and to avert their worldly fears. Avert fears. We do Arati. The only wealth that I desire is to serve at your feet, O Lord of Lords. We do Arati. Just as the Chatak bird desires to drink pure water, so give me Madhava, knowledge directly, O Lord, and kindly give me your assurance. Your assurance. We do Arati. The Gosavi said to Baba, I have altogether 2 rupees with me. Baba, how will I reach Jamner with only this amount? Baba said, Go without any care. Everything will be arranged for you. Having full faith in Sai's words, the Gosavi set out. Taking these instructions from Baba, and obeying his orders, Bapugir left for the assigned work immediately, after taking Udi as prasad. During those days, there was no rail route to Jamner, as it is now, and it was not easy to make the journey. So the Gosavi was worried. Setting out in the train, the passengers had to alight at Jalgaon, from where they had to go on foot the rest of the distance. After paying the train fare of Rupee 1 and annas, there remained only annas. How was he to go further? These were the thoughts causing the Gosavi worry at Jalgaon station. When he came out, after handing over the ticket, he saw a peon at some distance. The peon seemed to be in search of someone. He approached the passengers and asked, "Tell me, who is Bapu Gir from Shirdi?" Knowing that peon's inquiry was only meant for him, the Gosavi came forward and said, "Yes, I am that person. Tell me what you want." He said, "Chandorkar has sent me for you. Come quickly and get into the Tonga. He is waiting for you." The Buva was greatly pleased, and he felt that a message must have reached Nana from Shirdi to enable him to send a Tonga on time, which had saved him a lot of trouble. The peon looked very smart, with a beard, twirled moustache, and sideburns, wearing a livery. The Tonga also looked well maintained. The horses matched the Tonga. They were certainly not hired out animals. Leaving other Tongas behind, they moved ahead due to their eagerness. The Tonga had started for the journey around 2:48 a.m. and was halted at dawn near a stream on the way. Then the Tongawala unharnessed the horses to water them and said, "I'll come back soon, after which we will have refreshments at leisure. I will fetch a little water and then we will eat mangoes, pedas and gulpapdi." Then after reharnessing the horses we will leave. From his beard and dress he looked a Muslim. Hearing his words, Ramgir had doubts about accepting the refreshments from him. Therefore, he asked him about his caste. He said, "Have you doubts about me? I am a Hindu from Garhwal and a Kshatriya. I am a Rajput by caste. These refreshments have also been sent by Nana for you with me. Certainly, have not the slightest of doubts. Eat them free of worry." When his doubts were thus removed, they both had the refreshments. The Tongawala harnessed the horses and the journey came to an end at sunrise. As they entered the village, Nana's office became visible. The horses also stopped for a moment. Ramgir felt happy. The Buva looked for a secluded place in which to relieve himself. When he returned, he was surprised by the sight. No Tonga, no horses, no Tongawala could be seen. No one was to be seen at that moment. The place was deserted. Ramgir wondered, "What is this marvel? After bringing me so far, where has he gone in such a short time?" As he was eager to meet Nana, the Buva went inside the office. When he learned that Nana was at his residence, he decided to go there. Buva inquired the way along the road and easily found Nana's home. He reached and sat on the veranda and Nana called him in. They met one another. He took out the Udi and Aarti and placed them before Nana and told him the whole story. It was a marvel that, when this Udi came, Nana's daughter was suffering intensely due to some obstruction in the delivery. To ward off this difficulty, the Navachandi Havan and Saptashati recitation was in progress. The Gosavi was surprised. Nana then felt as a hungry person feels when a platter of delicacies is placed before him, or as a thirsty chakor feels when he gets nectar in his mouth. Nana called his wife and gave her the Udi to administer to his daughter with water, and he himself began singing the Aarti. Within moments, a message was received from the inner quarters that the girl was better. As soon as the cup of Udi was put to the lips, she was freed from pain immediately and had a safe delivery. The crisis passed away happily. Everybody's worries were over. Then Ramgir asked Nana, "Where did the Tongawala go? I do not find him here also. Where is the Tonga that you sent?" Nana replied, "I did not send. I do not know of what Tonga you are speaking. Who knew that you were coming? Why should I send the Tonga? Then Buva told the story of the Tonga, from the beginning to the end to all. Nana was surprised, thinking about Baba's loving concern for his devotees as his own children. What Tonga? Which peon? This Sai Mauli, Mother, is the Lord of the universe performing various wonderful feats. At the time of difficulty, he comes running to the devotees because of the intensity of devotion. So be it. Let us go ahead with the story indicated earlier. After some time, Baba himself took Mahasamadhi. On Vijayadashami, the festival of Dussehra, in the year, Baba considered it an auspicious day and chose to leave his body on that day. Then, later, the Samadhi was built. Before that, when Baba was in body, Narayana Rao had darshan twice. Now 3 years had passed since the Samadhi. Though he had an earnest desire to take darshan, he could not get a proper opportunity, whereby he was distressed. 1 year after the Samadhi, Narayan Rao was distressed by illness. All medications were tried but were of no avail. Though he was tormented by the illness, he meditated day and night upon Baba. How could there be death for the Guru Raya? He gave darshan to Narayana. One night, he had a dream that Sai was coming from a cellar. He came near Narayan Rao and assured him, "Do not worry. You will be better from tomorrow, and at the end of 1 week, you will be able to sit up on your own, so be it." 8 days passed. Every word proved true. Narayan Rao was able to sit up and his heart was filled with emotions. After some time, Narayana Rao came to Shirdi for the darshan of the Samadhi. When he narrated this experience, can he be called living only when he was in body? How can it be said that he is dead when he has taken Samadhi? Sai transcends life and death, pervading the entire universe. Just as fire is inherent in the firewood though not visible and which ignites when rubbed, this Sai is for his devotees. Once when one sees him with love, then he becomes his slave for the rest of his life. He is hungry only for the singular love and responds to the call of such a person. No special place or time is needed for him to be present. He is, forever, everywhere. How and what means he uses is beyond anyone's comprehension. Sometimes he creates such situations that we are filled with unreasonable doubts. At such times, concentrate on his feet and ability to meditate will increase. If the mind concentrates in this way, then one can achieve deep meditation on Sai. This is what Sai gets done, and it is achieved without any obstacles. It is not necessary to refrain from routine activities. All desires will disappear on their own. If the mind is thus trained, all work will be accomplished without efforts. Since this body has come to this earth, which is the theater of action, one will have to engage in actions, inevitably. Then why not amass enough of wealth and property and have wife and progeny? Whatever happens, let it happen to the fullest. Let us deeply desire only meditation on the Sadguru. Doubts and delusions will be destroyed. The predestined difficulties will be warded off. Considering the devotion of the devotee, how Sai, eminent for genius, learning and valor, gives the devotees a variety of experiences and increases the grandeur of devotion. He adopts any mode of dress and manifests anywhere at will. He roams anywhere for the welfare of the devotees. All that is required is that the disciple should be devoted. Please listen with reverence to another story which has a similar bearing. Hear how the saints toil day and night for the sake of their devotees. Open the doors of your ears, and unlock the temple of your heart, and let this story touch the very core of your being. It will drive away the fears of mundane existence. In the past year, for the well-known war with the Germans, an army was needed to be amassed to fight against the enemy. The British officers, posted in India, were recruiting persons from all the cities in all the quarters. A devotee's turn to be recruited came in 1917 from Thane district. The story took a new turn. His name was Appa Sahib Kulkarni. He was devoted to Sai. This also was Sai's grace. His leelas are unfathomable. Many years back he had obtained a picture of Baba from Bala Saheb Bhate, which he worshipped. With his whole heart, he regularly worshipped the picture with available sandalwood paste, consecrated rice and flowers, and offered Naivedya. Appa's heart ached for opportunity of Sai's darshan in person. When will I be free from ties of karma? When will my heart's desire be fulfilled? The darshan of Sai Baba's picture is itself a darshan in person. There should be only total devotion. You will get proof of this in time. Taking darshan of the picture is equivalent to taking darshan in person. Listeners should hear with reverence a description to this extent. Once Bala Buva Sutar, a bhajan singer, resident of Bombay, known as the modern Tukaram, went to Shirdi for darshan. This was the first meeting. They had never met before. But the moment they saw one another, Sai clearly said to him, "I have known him since the last 4 years." Bala Buva was surprised. Why does he say so? Baba has never left Shirdi. I too have laid my eyes on this place for the first time. Then, how is it that he has known me since the last 4 years? Thinking thus repeatedly, he recollected an incident which had happened 4 years ago. Bua remembered bowing to Baba's picture once. Then Bala Bua immediately understood the significance of those words, and said, "See, how all-pervading are the saints and their love and affection for the devotees. I had just bowed to a picture. I saw him in person today. Whereas I forgot this a long time back, Baba kept it in mind. It is not correct to say that I had forgotten, but I did not immediately understand the meaning of his words. I did not have the capacity to know that this was the fruit of my obeisance to the picture. Baba knew me, but I had no idea that he remembered me. It is only when the saints remind one that one realizes it one can see the reflection of the sun's or moon's disk in a clean mirror or clear water. A picture is also a pure reflection of the personage by which splendor is cast upon persons serving subordinately. Therefore, the darshan of a saint's picture is equivalent to the darshan in person. The all-knowing attribute of the saints is the lesson that is learnt by all from this. Enough. The listeners must attentively hear the earlier story now. Bear in mind the previous reference. Appa lived in Thane town. He had some work in Bhiwandi. He left his home saying that he would return after 8 days. Only 2 days had passed when something unusual happened at his house. A fakir came to the door of his Thane residence. Everyone who saw him clearly felt that this was Sai himself. He was exactly like the picture, from head to toe, and the figure tallied completely. His wife and children stared at the fakir and everybody was surprised. They felt that Baba himself had come. Though no one had darshan in person earlier, from the resemblance to the picture they knew that it was the same Baba. Their curiosity was aroused. All of them asked the fakir, "Are you the same Sai of Shirdi?" Listeners should hear with attention what the fakir replied to them. "In reality, I am not Sai myself, but I am his obedient servant. I have come here to inquire about the health of the children by his orders." Later, when he asked for dakshina, the children's mother respected his words and immediately gave him 1 rupee. He too gave her udi. He gave Sai Baba's vibhuti in a small packet to the lady and said, "Keep it near that picture. It will bring you happiness." Completing his mission thus, the fakir took leave with the words, "Sai must be waiting for me," and he set off on his way. Then he took the way by which he had come. Then see what happened there. Sai's Leela is inconceivable. Appa Sahib, who had left for Bhiwandi, instead of going further returned as the horses of his tonga became sick. His onward journey had to be cancelled. He returned to Thane in the afternoon and learnt all that had transpired. Appa Sahib regretted that he missed the darshan. He felt ashamed that only 1 rupee was given as dakshina. "If I had been there, I would not have given less than 10 rupees before he was sent back," thus said Appa Sahib. He felt dejected and sad. He believed that he would be able to find the fakir in the masjid, so he left to search for him, without eating anything. Appa searched in all the places such as the masjid, takia, and all such places where travelers stay, for the fakir. Though he got exhausted searching, he did not trace the fakir anywhere. Being disappointed and hungry, he went home and had his meal. But he did not know that one should not set out on a search on an empty stomach. It is necessary to satisfy one's Atma and then carry on the search. Baba's story of this purport will show the truth of this principle. Why should it be repeated here? The listeners know that chapter well. In the previous chapter named Guru's Greatness, a wonderful story has been narrated by Sri Sai, as his own Guru's words very tenderly. The same truth was experienced by Appa, when after lunch he went with his friend Chitre, for a casual walk. Enough. After walking a little distance, he saw a gentleman approaching him very speedily till that spot as if he was desirous of finding him. When he came and stood near Appa Sahib, he unobtrusively but carefully looked at him and thought that this must be the same person who had come in the morning. "I feel that this is the same fakir whom I was searching earlier. He resembles the picture from top to toe. I am confused." While Appa was debating this within himself, that fakir extended his hand and Appa placed 1 rupee in his hand at that time. He asked for more and he gave him 1 more, till he had given 3. Yet that fakir asked for more. The real marvel is ahead. Chitre had 3 rupees, which Appa borrowed and gave to that fakir, yet he asked for more. Appa Sahib told him, "I will give you more if you come home." The fakir agreed and all the 3 returned home. Immediately on reaching home, he took out and placed 3 more in his hand, totaling 9 rupees. Yet the fakir was not satisfied. When asking for further dakshina, Appa Sahib truthfully told him that he now had only 1 10-rupee note left with him. All the change was finished, and there was nothing else left. The fakir said, "Why not give the note?" and Appa did that too. As soon as the note came into his hands, he returned the change of 9 rupees and the fakir left the same way he had come, walking with great speed. When one considers the essence of this story, it is that Sai fulfills the wish of the devotee, as expressed. This was his creed. Considering the enthusiasm of the listeners, I'm reminded of another story, having the same purport, at this opportune time. Listen to it with great respect. There was a loving devotee, named Haribhau Karnik, resident of Dhanu. He was a singular devotee of Sai. In the year 1917, as it was the most holy day of Guru Purnima, he came for pilgrimage to Shirdi. I will tell a short story about him. He did the worship according to rituals and offered clothes and dakshina. When he took permission to leave and came down the steps, he had a thought. He felt like going up and giving Baba one more rupee. But he had to give up this idea and keep the rupee without offering it. The same gentleman who had got for him the permission to leave, he himself gave him a sign, from up above, that once the permission was granted, one should depart immediately. Having faith in the indication, Karnik left on his way. He got down at Nashik with his friend. On the way, when Karnik went for darshan to the temple of Kalaram, he had an unexpected darshan of the Saint Narsingh Maharaj. Maharaj was sitting surrounded by devotees. But he suddenly got up, held Karnik by the wrist and said, "Give me my rupee." Karnik was surprised but joyfully handed over the rupee. He felt that it was Sai himself, who knowing his desire was accepting the rupee. It is not true to say that Sai accepted it. Though Karnik had forgotten it, he held his hand and by force took it. This is the real truth. Vacillation is the characteristic of the mind. Waves after waves arise. Initially one thinks of something, but at a later stage some other thought occurs. The wave of thought which arises initially, provided it is good and virtuous, should be nurtured. This would be beneficial. Bear it in mind. Study it carefully and meditate upon it. Do not forget it and make every effort to keep your word. Appa Sahib had spoken of it, but later he may have forgotten. But as he had spoken of it, Baba fulfilled his desire and showed the marvel of devotion. Otherwise, why did the fakir who had 19 rupees with him, including adding the 10 rupees note, give Appa 9 rupees only? It was because of Appa's intense desire to give 10 rupees only. This was the necklace of 9 coins, which had been touched by Baba's hands, indicating the 9 types of devotion. This was the way Baba reminded him of it. When you listen to the story of Baba leaving his mortal coil, you will realize the novel way of doing charity, as he had given 9 rupees at that time. His wife had given only 1 rupee wholeheartedly, which had been accepted with great satisfaction, and the fakir, Baba, had not asked for more. But Appa felt that the 1 rupee given by his wife was too little, and had he been there, he would have given 10 times as much to the fakir. In this way Appa, who had become bound by his own words by saying that he would have given 10 rupees, how could he have been free from his debt until he had given the full amount as per his words? This fakir was not like the others. Was he a beggar that he would accept whatever was placed in his hand and go back? The day had not ended and he came back on the same day that Appa had spoken. Appa had doubts that he might be an unknown fakir. Initially, when he was asked for the money, he had 6 rupees with him, but he did not part with the amount because of the doubts. Enough. If he did not have love for Appa, would Baba have come in the guise of a fakir? If he had not made a pretext for the Dakshina, how would the story have been interesting? Appa Sahib was only an instrument to teach us, for we are all the same. We start with good resolutions but change them according to the situation. We are most generous with words but at the time of doing charity we are full of doubts. We are torn by vacillation and rarely have certainty. But rarest is that beloved Son of God who speaks little and well. He acts as he speaks and he does what he promises. If there be a devotee with singular faith, whatever be his wishes, worldly or spiritual, Sai has the power to fulfill them. Although Appa Sahib was intelligent and a scholar in English, he was initially given only 40 rupees as salary by the government. But since receiving this picture, his salary slowly increased and became many times more than 40. It was an immediate experience of all the people that Baba gave 10 times as much as he received, 10 times the power and the position. Besides, love towards the spiritual increases on account of faith and devotion. Isn't this something unusual? Baba's skill is wonderful. Later Appa Sahib asked for the vibhuti that the fakir had given. When he looked, it was a small packet, which he opened with love. With the udi there were flowers and consecrated rice, which he found in the packet. He had an amulet made and wore it on his arm with great reverence. Later when he took Baba's darshan, the hair which Baba gave to him personally was also placed in the amulet most lovingly. How great is Baba's udi! Ashes are also the ornament of Shankar. He who applies it on the forehead with devotion will find all difficulties removed immediately. He who, after his ablutions and bath, applies udi regularly and drinks the tirth of the washings of Baba's feet, will be purified and benefited. Besides, the real importance of this udi is that he who takes it will have a full life and his sins will be completely destroyed. He will enjoy bliss and contentment always. Such a sweet feast of the nectar of stories has been arranged by Sai because of Appa. We are the uninvited guests there, but let us fully enjoy them together with him. The host and the guests both have the same feast. There is no difference in its taste and sweetness. Be satisfied on partaking this blissful food. Hemant surrenders to Sai. Enough of listening to this, for the present. In the next chapter there will be narration of greater importance of the udi. How the application of udi and Sai's darshan cured tubercular bone ulcers, guinea worms and bubonic plague. Listen to it with full attention. May there be well-being. This is the end of the 33rd chapter of the Sri Sai Samartha Satcharita, written by the devotee Hemad Pant, impelled by saints and virtuous people, called The Power of the Udi. This is offered to Sri Sadguru Sai Nath. May there be auspiciousness